Hello?
Welcome to Group Chat.
Welcome back to Real America's Pop Culture. Our group chat starts today with Joe Rogan. Rogan says what we call bread in America wouldn't even be considered foods in parts of Europe. He claims the issue isn't really with gluten, it's with what we've done to the grain, the processing, the chemicals, and the additives. It's a sharp take on how different food standards are between the US and the rest of the world. Let's take a look.
To me why I can eat bread in Spain and I can eat Greece, Italy, no problem. Why I was gluten-free in 15 years. I've been gluten-free in Canada, America. Can't eat it.
That's because in America, what we call bread can't even be considered food in parts of Europe. See, here in America, it's not so much the gluten as what we've done to the grain. About 200 years ago, we started stripping the bran and germ, or the fiber and nutrients, to make flour shelf-stable, also nutritionally dead. Because the nutrients were gone, we enriched it with folic acid, which a large majority of the population can't even metabolize, therefore many people experience fatigue, anxiety, hyperactivity, and inflammation. But then the bread wasn't white enough, so they bleached it with chlorine gas, and the bread didn't rise enough, so they added a carcinogen called potassium bromate, which is banned in several countries like Europe, the UK, and even China. Then we wanted to ramp up production, so we started using glyphosate to dry out the wheat before harvest, causing endocrine disruption and damaging your gut. So now you're bloated, brain fogged, tired, and blame gluten, but gluten is just the scapegoat. The real issue is ultra-processed, chemically altered, bleached, bromated, fake vitamin-filled wheat soaked in glyphosate. This isn't bread. This is.
All right, so Mason, I will say, I don't know if you've traveled internationally. I've traveled internationally, and I can attest to going overseas and not feeling as bloated, not feeling as crampy, not just feeling gross overall. It is interesting. We've seen from beauty to food to other products how we have followed after Europe in terms of their banning of these things. We know that RFK is really working for the people here in terms of this stuff. But what's your take on this? And do you have any thoughts? Are you gluten-free? Do you have any dietary thoughts on this?
No, I'm not gluten-free. I've never had a problem eating, I grew up eating Wonder Bread and stuff like that, as a kid growing up in Texas. But that guy on Joe Rogan has a point. I mean, if there's all these terrible chemicals in the bread, yeah, maybe we should do something about it. I have been overseas many times. I've never done a test study on the effects of the bread on myself, but I'm sure that's correct. And yeah, I think, some people are going to want to eat at McDonald's though. So I think there's kind of like, we're going to, like Donald Trump, so we're going to have to find a balance of people should know what's in the food, I think is the most important thing. You should definitely know what's in your food. Absolutely. And know the risks, right? Absolutely. I agree with you.
I want to move on to another fascinating story Rogan covered this week. So he's also talked about Canada's life expectancy, pointing out how health outcomes are shifting north of the border. He compared it to American lifestyles and the impact of diet, stress, and medical systems. Let's take a look.
Canada's overall life expectancy.
Yes.
That might be the craziest statistic in the world right now. You've seen this, right?
Yes.
Since 1930, of course, it goes this way, this way, this way, this way, because you fucking live longer because fucking technology and medicine. And then 2020 it levels, and then it starts to go down. It's down 2.5 years since 2020, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
Unprecedented. What could that possibly be from?
I don't know, Tony.
Weird.
So strange. It's not like there was a gigantic medical intervention that was forced upon the population during that time period.
Again and again, and booster and booster and booster.
Yeah, medical intervention around 2020. What could that possibly be, Mason? I mean, we don't have people that have chronic illness after that year skyrocketing or anything like that. But I mean, I think you know what they're hinting at here. It's interesting. It shows how culture and policy can literally change how long people live. Do you have any experience in, a life-altering medical condition from a certain medical intervention that we all took? Or have you heard any stories on that? And do you agree that that is probably what can be changing the outcome here?
I have not had any medical issues, but I like what they're doing in Florida. I think it's the Surgeon General was like, you know what, you're gonna get to decide what you put in your body, what you put in your kid's body. Over here in California, there is a vaccine schedule, and my kid has had vaccines. But I think the medical community has way too much power, and so um, we need to start taking some of that power back. And my kid shouldn't be limited on what school he can go to because he didn't get the flu vaccine or whatever, the hepatitis vaccine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we're Americans, and we should be able to decide whatever goes into our body. So.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think President Trump also agrees that there's a balance here. Some vaccines are great, other ones might not be as beneficial as we're being told. And this is totally a group chat of Joe Rogan today, because I want to bring up this last story. So he told Theo Von that Joe Rogan told Theo Von that President Trump once went 72 hours without sleep right before the election. Okay, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty wild. It's something that you hear in the streets here in DC, so it doesn't shock me. But how do you feel about that? And don't you think that is something that sort of makes you feel proud that he's in charge of the country?
God bless him. The only people I know that have been awake for 72 hours were probably not doing anything good. So
yes.
So for Donald Trump to be just working, and he's focused, and he's like working for 72, I mean, that's amazing. That's incredible. And we're very lucky, that we have a president who's awake for 72 hours. I hope he got some good sleep though after that, because that's a long time to be awake.
Absolutely. our previous president, he did nothing but sleep. So it's quite the contrast that we have going on. Moving on, VP JD Vance is urging young men to not buy into a culture that shames masculinity. He says men and women were made for different roles, and his policies aim to help both of them thrive. Let's take a look.
My message to young men is don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. The cultural message, and I think the president's and mine is the exact opposite, but our cultural message is I think that it wants to turn everybody, into whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
So I think VP Vance is doing a great job here, right? Hammering and continuing that message of masculinity and really showing people, hey, the Republican Party is here to stand up and protect men that, we saw when Donald Trump came down that escalator. I mean, so many young Gen Z men have even spoken out about that being such a crucial moment for his campaign. But how do you feel about this? And do you believe that this is a good message to be sharing?
Yeah, I think the age of man bashing is over. I mean, even going back, I saw Steve Bannon the other day was talking about how, like, even in the 60s, I mean, it was always like the dumb doofus kind of dad in a sitcom, that everyone laughed at. And yeah, I think finally we have some, we're entering a place where men we should be respected. There shouldn't be all this, man hate all the time. And so I think it's a good thing. Masculinity is not toxic the way, a lot of the left tries to make it out to be. Masculinity and femininity, we need each other.
Yes.
They're both wonderful, great things, and we need each other.
Absolutely. I love what you said there. Masculine and femininity need each other. How beautiful is that? Moving on, Bill Maher made a striking comparison, saying liberals are the gas pedal and the conservatives are the brakes. He admitted he usually sides with the gas pedal, but not if the car is driving off a cliff. Let's check this out.
They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff.
So I have definitely made a reputation about covering Bill Maher because I feel like he's red-pilling people. You've probably seen it in a lot of my clips online. But even Bill Maher seems to have this warning for the left about their direction. He continues to kind of nudge them a little bit. What are your thoughts on Bill Maher? And is he truly becoming a moderate before our eyes?
I've always liked Bill Maher. I like watching the show. But there's a lot of people who've been screaming at Bill, who've been telling Bill Maher for a long time, you know, hey, Bill, we're in the car with you. The car is going off the cliff. Maybe we need to push the brakes. And I think for a long time, Bill Maher was like, you know, no, it's not going off the cliff. No, it's not going off the cliff. Finally, Bill Maher sees that the car has been going off the cliff. It's time for some brakes. So I like the you know, the metaphor of the gas and the brakes or whatever. So yeah, but I'm glad Bill Maher is seeing that it's time to push the brakes. Maybe even reverse.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to even like reverse a little bit, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, thank you, Mason, for sticking with me here. And we will get back to our other guests who joined us this week. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me for another episode. Follow us at A Real America's Pop on all platforms and follow me, your favorite host, at Adrienne Gray TV. Make sure to send me your hot takes and your weekly pop culture outrage because you know that we live for it. And we'll be back next week with some more. So until then, stay loud, stay proud, and tell your group chat about me. We'll see you next week.